Close your eyes and let the noise of the modern world fade away. Imagine a place where time moves at the pace of drifting leaves, and the only light comes from the silver moon and the golden glow of a lantern. Tonight, we travel back to a forgotten era, deep into the heart of the ancient woods. Here, under the protective canopy of the forest at night, you will find a stillness so profound it feels like the world has paused just for you.
The day has finally begun to fold its wings and rest, signaling the end of labor and the beginning of a deep and restorative peace that settles over the land like a soft and heavy blanket. You find yourself standing at the very edge of the wilderness, at that magical hour where the golden light of the late afternoon begins to surrender to the velvet embrace of twilight. The air around you is cooling, shedding the heat of the midday sun and carrying with it the crisp and clean scent of pine needles and damp earth from the forest that stands before you like a silent guardian of time. Behind you lies the open meadow, a sea of tall amber grass that ripples gently in the fading breeze, waving a slow farewell to the daylight, while ahead of you the great tree line rises up like a wall of ancient wisdom, marking the boundary between the known world of the village and the mysterious, comforting sanctuary of the woods. It is the late 19th century, a time when the world moved slower, when the rhythm of life was dictated not by clocks, but by the rising and setting of the sun. And here, on the precipice of the forest, you can feel that old rhythm slowing down your own heart, syncing your breath with the slow exhalation of the earth. You adjust the strap of your leather satchel across your shoulder, feeling the reassuring weight of your supplies, the texture of the worn leather smooth under your fingertips, and you pull your wool coat tighter around you as the evening chill begins to kiss your cheeks. The sky above is a masterpiece of transition, a canvas painting itself in real time, shifting from a brilliant, blinding blue to soft hues of lavender, dusty rose, and a deep royal indigo that hints at the starlight to come. As you look up, you can see the very first star making its shy appearance, a tiny pinprick of light that seems to pulse with a gentle rhythm, guiding your eyes down toward the towering pines and massive oaks that await your entry. There is no rush here, no schedule to keep, only the invitation to walk forward into the quiet. So you take your first step off the beaten dirt path of the meadow and onto the softer, cushioned floor of the forest edge, where layers of fallen leaves and needles from years past create a natural carpet that muffles the sound of your sturdy boots. The sound of the world behind you begins to fade. The distant lowing of cattle and the creak of wagon wheels are replaced by the intimate whispers of the wild. The light is changing rapidly now, the shadows of the trees stretching out long and thin across the grass behind you, reaching back toward the day, as if trying to hold on to the warmth for just a moment longer. But the forest knows that night is necessary, that darkness is a friend that brings rest. You pause for a moment by an ancient oak tree, its bark rough and deeply furrowed like the face of an old storyteller, and you run your hand along the trunk, feeling the solid, unmoving strength of nature. This tree has stood here since before the country was born, watching the sun set thousands of times, and its presence makes you feel small in the most comforting way, reminding you that your worries are fleeting and that the world is vast and capable of holding you up. The twilight deepens, turning the spaces between the trees into pools of soft gray and purple, blurring the sharp edges of reality and inviting your imagination to rest. You can smell the scent of cooling sap, a sweet and resinous aroma that is the very perfume of the American wilderness, mixed with the faint, distant smell of wood smoke from a chimney miles away, a reminder of hearth and home that makes you feel safe even in this solitude.
As you walk slowly deeper past the first line of sentry trees, the canopy above begins to knit together, blocking out the fading violet sky and creating a sheltered tunnel where the light is dim and soothing to tired eyes. The birds are settling down for the night, their songs changing from the energetic melodies of the morning to short, soft chirps and trills, a lullaby that passes from branch to branch as they tuck their heads under their wings. You hear the rustle of a squirrel scampering up a trunk, hurrying to its nest, and the sound is not startling but rhythmic, a part of the great going-to-sleep ritual of the woods. The wind, which had been playful in the meadow, slows down as it enters the trees, becoming a gentle draft that cools your forehead and whispers through the leaves of the aspen trees, making them tremble with a sound like rushing water or distant rain. It is the golden hour, turning into the blue hour, that specific time when the human eye begins to relax, when colors become muted and the world feels softer, less demanding. You continue your slow pace, your boots finding confident footing on the mossy ground, and with every step you feel the tension of the day draining out of your shoulders, flowing down your arms, and dripping off your fingertips into the forest floor, where the earth absorbs it without complaint. You are entering a cathedral of nature, a place where the pillars are trunks of cedar and fir, and the roof is a weaving of branches that filters the last gray light of the day. The temperature drops another degree, refreshing and crisp, making you appreciate the warmth of your heavy coat and the sturdy flannel shirt beneath it. In the distance, through a break in the trees, you can see the horizon glowing with a burnt orange ember, the sun's final bow, casting a silhouette of the distant mountains that look like sleeping giants against the sky. This is the American frontier in its most peaceful state, away from the bustle of the growing cities, away from the noise of industry, a place where the soul can expand to fill the silence. You take a deep breath, inhaling the oxygen-rich air that tastes of fern and damp stone, and as you exhale, you visualize a white mist leaving your lips, carrying away any lingering stress or anxiety. The forest at twilight is not a place of fear, but a place of transition, a bridge between the waking world and the dream world.
The shadows here are not menacing. They are simply the absence of light, wrapping around the roots of the trees and filling the hollows of the ground with a velvety darkness that feels protective, like a blanket being pulled up to your chin. You notice the fireflies beginning to wake up, tiny sparks of yellow-green light that drift lazily through the underbrush, blinking in a slow, hypnotic rhythm that mimics the beating of a calm heart. They are like floating lanterns, guiding you deeper into the relaxation that awaits you. The path before you is faint, an old deer trail perhaps, or a way worn by hunters from a century ago. But you follow it with ease, trusting your feet and the fading light. The noises of the day have stopped completely now. The hawk has gone to its roost, the bees have returned to the hive, and the forest holds its breath for a moment, a profound stillness that rings in your ears, sweeter than any music. This silence is heavy and rich, a presence in itself. It is in this silence that you begin to hear the sound of your own existence, the steady rhythm of your breathing, the soft thud of your steps, the rustle of fabric against fabric. You are becoming part of the forest, no longer an intruder, but a guest, welcomed by the twilight. The light is now a deep, dusky blue, rendering the world in monochrome, removing the distraction of color and allowing you to focus on form and texture. You see the ghostly white bark of a birch tree glowing softly in the gloom, standing out like a beacon. You reach out to touch a fern frond as you pass, its lace-like leaves cool and damp with the evening dew that is beginning to settle on everything, washing the forest clean for the night. The transition is almost complete. The edge of the wilderness is no longer a line in front of you, but a world that surrounds you. You have crossed over. The sun has dipped below the horizon completely, leaving only a faint afterglow that paints the western sky in strokes of indigo and charcoal. The air is still, so still that it feels like the world has paused just for you, waiting for you to find your center, to find your peace. You feel a sense of profound gratitude for this moment, for this place, for the simple act of walking through the woods as the day turns to night. The history of this land seeps into you, a history of quiet endurance, of seasons changing, of life continuing in a calm, unbreakable cycle. You are safe here, held in the arms of the earth. The darkness is not empty, it is full of potential, full of rest. As you take the final steps of this twilight journey, moving further into the embrace of the trees, you are ready to light your lantern, ready to welcome the night. But for now, you linger in this final moment of dusk, watching the last detail of the day fade away, letting your eyes close for a second to capture the image of the twilight forest, a perfect picture of tranquility that you can carry with you into sleep. The edge of the wilderness has done its work. It has separated you from the noise, it has cooled your spirit, and it has prepared you for the deep, historical slumber that awaits in the heart of the forest at night.
The final curtain of twilight has now gently fallen, dissolving the last painted strokes of purple and gray into a rich and velvety darkness that wraps around the forest like a heavy quilt, signaling that the time for natural sight has passed and the time for the lantern has arrived. You come to a slow, deliberate halt on the soft earth, feeling the stillness of the woods settle into your bones, a stillness so profound that it feels as if the trees themselves are holding their breath in anticipation of the light to come. You reach down to your side, your fingers brushing against the rough, durable canvas of your pack until they find the cool, smooth metal of the lantern, a trusty companion forged of brass and glass that has seen many nights such as this. The metal is cold to the touch, a refreshing contrast to the warmth of your hands, and as you lift it, the faint, familiar slosh of the oil in the reservoir below promises hours of steady, golden illumination. You set the lantern on a flat, moss-covered stone that sits beside the path like a natural altar, the moss damp and soft beneath the brass base, and you prepare for the ritual of bringing light to the darkness. The air around you is crisp, filled with the scent of pine and the coming night, and you can hear the wind sighing gently in the upper branches far above your head, a sound like the ocean waves rolling onto a distant shore. You reach into your coat pocket and withdraw a small wooden box of matches, the wood smooth from years of handling, and you slide the cover open with a soft, satisfying friction that sounds loud in the quiet forest. You select a single match, its tip coated in red sulfur, and you strike it against the rough strip on the side of the box, the sudden scritch followed immediately by a brilliant flare of orange fire that dazzles your eyes for a moment, pushing back the shadows in a sudden jumping circle. The smell of the sulfur is sharp and nostalgic, a scent that speaks of old libraries and winter fires, grounding you in this moment of history. With a steady hand, you locate the small lever on the side of the lantern and raise the glass chimney, the metal hinges squeaking faintly, a sound of mechanical precision in the organic wild. You guide the match toward the blackened wick, watching as the flame jumps from the wood to the cotton, catching instantly, and blooming into a small, teardrop-shaped fire that sits proudly at the center of the lantern. You lower the glass chimney back down, and as it settles, the flame stabilizes, growing taller and brighter, transforming from a flickering spark into a steady, glowing heart of light. You blow out the match, the thin trail of smoke spiraling up to join the night air, and you turn the small brass dial to adjust the height of the wick, watching the light expand and intensify until it casts a warm amber sphere around you. The world has changed now, transformed by this single source of illumination. The darkness that seemed impenetrable just moments ago is now held at bay, pushed back to the edges of a circle of safety that belongs only to you. The light of the lantern is not harsh like the electric lights of the future, but soft, living and breathing, a buttery yellow glow that enhances the textures of the forest rather than washing them out. You pick up the lantern by its wire bale handle, the metal swinging slightly in your grip, and you feel a surge of comfort, a primal sense of security that humans have felt for thousands of years when holding fire against the night. You begin to walk again, your boots finding the narrow path that winds between the trees, a path that is now illuminated in shifting patches of gold and shadow. The light swings gently with the rhythm of your stride, creating a hypnotic rocking motion that lulls your mind into a trance-like state of relaxation. As the lantern swings forward, it reveals the gnarled roots of ancient hemlocks crossing the path like sleeping snakes, their bark rough and dusted with silver lichen that sparkles momentarily before fading back into the dark. To your left and right, the trunks of the trees appear as massive pillars, their tops lost in the canopy above, and the light catches the low-hanging branches of a cedar, turning the needles into delicate, glowing lace. The forest floor is a tapestry of fallen leaves, rich browns and faded reds that look like scattered coins under the lantern's glow, and you can see the tiny movements of the night world, a moth fluttering silently toward the glass, drawn by the warmth, its wings powdery and soft. The path is narrow here, a ribbon of earth carved through the density of the woods, and the closeness of the trees feels like an embrace, a corridor leading you deeper into peace. The smell of the kerosene oil warming up mixes with the scent of the damp earth, a unique fragrance that defines the experience of the historic wilderness, comforting and industrial all at once. You watch the interplay of light and shadow as you move, the way the shadows of the tree trunks stretch out long and thin behind them, rotating like the hands of a clock as you pass, dancing a slow waltz with your movement. There is no need to look far ahead, for the lantern lights only the next few steps, teaching you to be present, to focus only on the here and now, letting go of the future and the past. The sound of the lantern is a quiet companion, the faint rattle of the glass in its frame, the tiny hiss of the flame consuming the oil, sounds that merge with the crunch of your boots on the gravel and soil. You feel a deep sense of solitude, but it is not a lonely solitude. It is a rich, private independence, the feeling of being the only person awake in a sleeping world. The air gets cooler as you descend slightly into a small hollow, the mist gathering around your ankles, swirling in the lantern light like ethereal spirits, cool and refreshing against your skin. You see a spider web suspended between two saplings, a masterpiece of engineering, the silk threads catching the light and shining like a necklace of diamonds, undisturbed and perfect. You move carefully so as not to break it, respecting the small lives that inhabit this massive forest. The glow of the lantern creates a room without walls, a traveling sanctuary that moves with you, and inside this room, everything is warm and tinted with gold. The rough bark of a pine tree, when lit this way, looks like a topographical map of an ancient land, full of ridges and valleys. You pass a large boulder, covered in thick green moss that looks like velvet pillows, and the light makes the green so vibrant it seems to hum with life. The rhythm of your walking becomes automatic, a meditative pacing, left foot, right foot, the swing of the lantern, the sway of the light. You are lulled by this repetition, your breathing deepening, your heart rate slowing to match the leisurely pace of the night. Occasionally the wind picks up, causing the trees to sway and the shadows to shift and morph, but the lantern flame remains steady behind its glass shield, a constant star in your hand. You feel a connection to the travelers of the past, the pioneers and explorers who walked these same woods with nothing but a flame to guide them, and you share in their quiet courage and their appreciation for the shelter of the trees. The path curves gently to the right, leading you around a thicket of ferns that brush against your legs with a soft shush-shush sound, and the lantern illuminates the underside of their fronds, revealing the intricate patterns of spores, nature's hidden designs. You are walking through a living gallery where every step reveals a new detail, a new texture, a new shadow, all softened by the forgiving amber light. The darkness beyond your circle of light is not empty. It is full of the potential for dreams, a deep, restful blackness that invites you to close your eyes and drift, but you keep them open, mesmerized by the flame. You can see the heat rising from the top of the lantern, distorting the air slightly, making the trees in the background ripple like a reflection in water. Your hand feels warm from the radiant heat of the brass, a comforting sensation that travels up your arm and spreads through your chest. You are entirely self-sufficient in this moment, carrying your own sun, creating your own warmth. The narrow path begins to rise again, and as you climb, the perspective shifts, the light catching the stones embedded in the dirt, making them gleam like gems. You are moving deeper into the heart of the forest, further away from the noise of civilization, and with every step, the silence of the woods wraps tighter around you, insulating you, protecting you. The lantern's first glow has done more than just light the way. It has shifted your consciousness, moving you from the alertness of the day to the dreamy, drifting awareness of the night. You are safe, you are warm, and you are guided by a golden light that will not falter, leading you gently toward the rest that awaits you.
The path you were following now begins to widen slightly as the character of the forest shifts around you, transitioning from the mixed woods of the edge into the cathedral of the deep wilderness, a place dominated by the towering presence of the ancient pines. These are not merely trees, but living monuments of time, giants that have claimed this land long before the first maps were drawn or the first roads were cut through the valleys. As you lift your lantern higher, the amber light reveals the sheer scale of these wooden titans, their trunks rising straight and true like massive pillars of a dark temple, so wide that 3 men standing with linked arms could scarcely embrace them. The bark is thick and deeply furrowed, resembling the rough, weathered skin of elephants or the topographical maps of rugged mountains, armored plates that have protected the heart of the tree from centuries of harsh winters and scorching summers. You pause for a moment to simply stand in their presence, feeling a wave of humility wash over you, for there is something inherently spiritual about standing at the foot of a living thing that was a sapling when the country was young. You reach out a gloved hand to touch the rough surface of the nearest pine, feeling the solid, unyielding strength beneath your fingertips, a sensation of stability that travels from the wood into your own body, grounding you, making you feel as rooted and secure as the tree itself. But it is not just their size that commands your attention, it is their voice, for the pines are the singers of the forest, the keepers of the wind's secrets. Far above your head, in the dark canopy that brushes against the stars, the wind is moving, and the sound it creates as it passes through millions of needle-like leaves is a soft, continuous rushing sound, a soothing shh that mimics the ebb and flow of a distant ocean. It is a sound of immense volume but zero aggression, a white noise that fills the air with a blanket of acoustic comfort, drowning out the scattered thoughts of your mind and replacing them with a singular hypnotic rhythm. This is the whisper of the ancient pines, a language that speaks of patience, of endurance, and of the slow, steady passage of time. As you listen, you can distinguish the different notes in this natural symphony, the high, thin whistle of the breeze catching the topmost branches, and the lower, mournful hum of the heavier boughs swaying gently in the dark. It is a lullaby that has been sung every night for hundreds of years, a song that lulled the Native Americans to sleep in their wigwams, that comforted the weary trappers wrapped in their buffalo robes, and that now settles over you like a blessing. You tilt your head back, looking up the length of the trunk, and although the canopy is too dense to see the sky clearly, you can catch glimpses of the moon filtering through the needles, shattering into 1,000 diamonds of silver light that dance and shift with the movement of the wind. The air here is different too, heavier and richer, saturated with the scent of pine resin and old wood, a sharp, clean fragrance that opens your lungs and clears your head, the very smell of health and vitality. You take a deep, slow breath, inhaling the essence of the forest, tasting the sap and the cold, clean night on your tongue, and with every exhale, you release a little more of the tension you have been carrying. Walking on, you notice that the ground beneath your boots has changed, becoming softer and more resilient, for the floor of a pine forest is carpeted with layers of fallen needles that have accumulated over decades. This natural cushion absorbs the sound of your footsteps completely, so you move in total silence, like a ghost or a dream, gliding through the dark aisles of the trees. There is no underbrush here, for the great pines command the space, their shade preventing smaller plants from crowding the floor, leaving the space open and majestic, a vast hall of columns that stretches out into the darkness beyond the reach of your lantern. You feel a profound sense of protection here, as if these ancient guardians are watching over you, their branches formed into a roof that shields you from the cold vastness of the universe. They are the witnesses of history, the silent observers that have seen the seasons turn in an endless cycle of green and white, of life and dormancy. They have stood stoic through the raging storms of the past, bending but never breaking, and their survival is a testament to the power of flexibility and deep roots, a lesson that seeps into your subconscious as you walk among them. The wind picks up slightly, and the whispering grows louder, a crescendo of soft rushing air that wraps around you, swaddling you in sound. It is a sound that invites sleep, a sound that tells you that it is safe to let go, that the world will continue to spin and the trees will continue to stand, whether you are awake to worry about them or not. You stop again and lean your back against the trunk of a particularly large pine, feeling the solidness of it supporting your spine, taking the weight off your legs. Through your heavy coat, you can almost feel the slow, deep vibration of the tree as it hums in the wind, a frequency that resonates with the deepest parts of your being. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the lantern hang by your side, and you simply listen. You hear the creak of wood against wood, a slow groaning sound like the rigging of an old ship at sea as two great branches rub together high above. It is a comforting, domestic sound, the sound of the forest settling in for the night.
You imagine the sap moving slowly through the veins of the tree, a sluggish, golden river of life that slows down in the cold but never stops, just as your own blood slows its race, calming your heart. The history of the land feels very close here,
the separation between the past and the present wearing thin in the shadow of these long-lived giants. You can almost sense the presence of those who walked here before you, not as ghosts, but as shared memories held by the trees, a collective peacefulness of all the travelers who found shelter under these boughs. The pines do not judge, they do not demand, they simply exist, massive and calm, and they invite you to join them in their stillness. You open your eyes and push away from the trunk, ready to continue, but moving slower now, your pace dictated by the slow swaying of the canopy. The lantern light swings, illuminating the brown carpet of needles, catching the shape of a fallen pine cone, its scales open and perfect, a seed of the future lying dormant in the dark. You kick it gently, watching it roll, a small interaction with the wild. The whispering of the pines follows you, a constant companion that ensures you are never truly alone in the dark. It is a sound that blurs the edges of your thoughts, making them soft and fuzzy, pushing you gently toward the realm of dreams. The towering vertical lines of the trunks create a sense of order and structure in the chaotic wild, a visual rhythm that is pleasing to the eye and calming to the mind. Up and down, your eyes trace the lines of the bark, following them up into the gloom, where they branch out into the soft, feathery darkness of the needles. You feel small, but not insignificant. You feel like a part of a greater whole, a small note in the vast song of the wilderness. The cold air feels good against your face, contrasting with the warmth of your body, keeping you comfortable and cozy. The forest is not sleeping, it is resting, and it is teaching you how to rest. The whispers of the ancient pines are the breath of the earth itself, deep and rhythmic, inhaling the light of the day and exhaling the peace of the night. You walk on, deeper into the grove, surrounded on all sides by these benevolent giants, guided by the golden glow of your lantern and the soothing, shushing song of the wind in the needles, a song that promises safety, a song that promises rest, a song that will lead you eventually to the deep, dreamless sleep of the historic night.
The dense wall of ancient pines finally begins to yield, their massive trunks stepping back like courteous hosts, opening a door to reveal the secret heart of the forest. As you take a few more steps along the soft, needle-strewn path, the canopy above opens up, revealing a vast and breathtaking canvas of the night sky, dusted with an infinity of stars that look like spilled sugar on black velvet. You have stepped into a natural clearing, a hidden pocket of the wilderness that feels entirely separate from the rest of the world, a place where the moonlight is allowed to flood in and paint everything in shades of silver and blue. In the center of this tranquil meadow, surrounded by the protective embrace of the tall trees, stands a structure that brings an immediate sense of relief and homecoming to your weary spirit. It is a cabin, a sturdy and humble lodge built from the very timber of these woods, standing silent and dark against the backdrop of the night. It is not a ruin, nor is it abandoned. Rather, it appears to be waiting, a faithful sanctuary that has stood here for generations, waiting specifically for your arrival on this quiet night. The cabin is constructed of large, hand-hewn logs, their surfaces rough and textured, stacked one upon the other with the precision and care of a master craftsman from a bygone era. The wood has aged to a deep, rich brown, darkened by years of rain and sun, and in the pale moonlight, the logs look as solid as iron, promising a shelter that is impervious to the wind and the cold. A thick stone chimney rises from one side of the cabin, built from river rocks and field stones, standing like a strong spine that anchors the house to the earth. You can see the roof, pitched steeply to shed the winter snows, covered in cedar shakes that have curled slightly with age, and patches of thick, soft moss have grown on the north side, turning the roof into a living part of the forest landscape. As you raise your lantern, the golden light spills forward, cutting through the silver moonlight and illuminating the front of the cabin, revealing a wide, welcoming porch that runs the length of the building. It is the kind of porch designed for sitting and watching the rain, with rough-hewn railings and a floor of sturdy planks that you know will creak comfortably under your boots. There is a profound sense of peace here, a feeling that this cabin is a guardian, a place where the worries of the modern world cannot follow you. The tall grass of the meadow brushes against your legs as you leave the tree line and walk toward the structure, the seed heads whispering against your trousers, wet with the heavy evening dew. The air in the clearing is still and cold, but the sight of the cabin warms you from the inside out, triggering a primal instinct of safety that humans have felt for thousands of years upon finding shelter. You can see the windows now, small squares of glass divided by wooden muntins, dark for the moment, but reflecting the starlight like calm pools of water. They are like eyes, not watching you with suspicion, but watching over the meadow with a calm, benevolent gaze. The closer you get, the more details emerge from the shadows. You see a stack of firewood neatly piled against the side wall, the ends of the logs showing the rings of their years, dry and ready to be burned. You see a rain barrel positioned under the corner of the roof, catching the bounty of the storms. These small signs of habitation and preparedness make you feel cared for, as if an invisible host has prepared everything for your comfort. The silence of the clearing is different from the silence of the deep woods. Here it is open and airy, a silence that feels like a deep breath before sleep. You reach the edge of the porch and place one boot on the wooden step, the solid thud of your landing echoing softly, a sound that says you have arrived. You climb the steps, the wood feeling firm and reliable beneath you, and you stand on the covered porch, shielded now from the open night. The smell here is wonderful, a blend of old dry wood, the faint lingering scent of wood smoke from fires past, and the fresh, crisp air of the night. You run your hand along the porch railing, feeling the grain of the wood, polished smooth by the hands of those who came before you. It grounds you in history, connecting you to the pioneers and the poets who might have sought refuge in a place just like this. The front door stands before you, a masterpiece of functional beauty, made of thick oak planks held together with iron straps. It is a heavy door, a barrier between the wild night and the cozy interior, and it has an iron latch that gleams dull and dark in your lantern light. You pause for a moment on the porch, turning your back to the door to look out over the clearing one last time. From this vantage point, the forest looks like a dark ocean surrounding an island of calm. The trees stand guard at the edges, their tops swaying gently, but here on the porch, the air is still. You feel a deep sense of gratitude for this place, this hidden gem in the wilderness that offers you a place to rest your head. The isolation is not lonely, it is luxurious. It is the luxury of silence, the luxury of solitude, the luxury of knowing that for tonight you have nowhere else to be and nothing else to do.
The lantern casts long, dancing shadows across the porch floor, creating a warm, intimate atmosphere even before you enter. You imagine the history of this cabin, the storms it has weathered, the long winters it has withstood, and you feel a sense of respect for its resilience. It is a structure built to last, built to protect, and tonight it is your protector. You turn back to the door, your hand reaching out for the cold iron of the latch. You know that on the other side lies the true heart of the night's comfort, but you linger for just one more second, savoring the anticipation. The journey through the woods was beautiful, but the destination is divine. This cabin is more than just wood and stone. It is a symbol of safety, a physical manifestation of the peace you are seeking in your own mind. As you stand there, the forest seems to exhale, a final release of the day's energy, leaving only the pure, distilled essence of the night. You are ready to go inside, ready to leave the vastness of the outdoors for the intimacy of the indoors. You lift the latch, the metal clicking with a heavy, satisfying sound, and the door swings inward on well-oiled hinges, revealing the velvety darkness of the interior that smells of cedar and safety. You have found it. You have found the hidden cabin in the clearing, the place where the world stops and rest begins. The structure wraps its arms around you, promising you warmth, promising you shelter, and promising you the deepest, most restorative sleep of your life. You step across the threshold, carrying your light into the sanctuary, leaving the wilderness behind you as you close the door on the night, shutting out the cold and sealing yourself into the quiet, historical comfort of the cabin.
The heavy oak door clicks shut behind you, sealing out the vast and chilly wilderness and enclosing you within the sturdy wooden walls of the cabin, instantly replacing the expansive sounds of the forest with a hushed and intimate silence that feels like a physical embrace. You stand there for a moment in the sudden stillness, the lantern in your hand casting long, swinging shadows against the rough-hewn logs that make up the walls, breathing in the scent of the interior, which is a rich perfume of dry timber, old stone, and the faint, nostalgic ghost of wood smoke from fires long past. The air inside is cool, preserved in the stillness of the unlived-in room, but it is a dry stillness, waiting to be brought to life by your presence and by the ritual of the flame. You move slowly across the wooden floorboards, which are wide and smooth, worn down by the boots of previous generations, and each step you take produces a soft, comforting creak that sounds like the house is greeting you, acknowledging your arrival. Your destination is the heart of the room, the massive stone fireplace that dominates the far wall, a masterpiece of frontier masonry built from gray river stones and granite, standing cold and dormant, but ready to serve. You set your lantern down on the heavy wooden mantelpiece, a slab of dark walnut that shines dully in the light, and the amber glow of the lantern illuminates the cavernous mouth of the hearth, revealing the iron andirons that wait like patient beasts to hold the fuel. You kneel down on the flagstone hearth, the stones cool and hard beneath your knees, grounding you in the reality of this simple, historical moment. Next to the fireplace, you find everything you need: a pile of seasoned firewood, split logs of oak and hickory that have been dried to perfection, and a basket of kindling, small twists of birch bark, and dry pine twigs that are eager to catch a spark. You begin the timeless process of laying the fire, a task that your ancestors performed every day, a task that connects you to the very history of human survival. You place a handful of the papery birch bark in the center of the grate, the white curls rustling softly in your hands, and over this you build a small teepee of the pine twigs, arranging them with care to allow the air to flow. Then come the larger pieces of wood, the split logs placed with deliberate precision, creating a structure that will shelter the growing flame. There is a deep satisfaction in this work, a feeling of competence and self-reliance that calms the mind. You reach for your matches once more, striking one against the stone of the hearth, and the sudden flare of sulfur is followed by the steady yellow flame of the match. You touch the flame to the birch bark, and it catches instantly, curling and blackening as the fire takes hold, a small, hungry thing that grows with surprising speed. The dry pine twigs begin to crackle, a sharp, cheerful sound that breaks the silence of the room, popping and snapping as the heat releases the energy stored within the wood. You watch, mesmerized, as the flames lick upward, tasting the larger logs, turning from yellow to orange, and then to a deep, intense red at the center.
Smoke begins to curl up, but the chimney draws perfectly, pulling the gray plumes up and away, leaving only the scent of burning wood to fill the room, a smell that is arguably the most comforting aroma in the world. As the fire strengthens, the light in the room shifts, the steady, static glow of the lantern giving way to the dancing, living light of the hearth. Shadows begin to flicker on the walls, growing and shrinking in time with the flames, making the cabin feel alive. You can feel the first waves of warmth radiating outward from the stone mouth of the fireplace, a gentle, invisible tide that washes over your face and hands, chasing away the chill of the night air. It is a primitive, soulful warmth, different from any modern heating, for it penetrates deep into your muscles, loosening the tension you didn't even know you were holding. You stand up slowly and turn your back to the fire for a moment, letting the heat soak into your heavy coat, warming your spine, a sensation of pure luxury. You unbutton your wool coat, your fingers moving slowly, no longer clumsy with cold, and you slide it off your shoulders, hanging it on a peg by the door. Without the heavy weight of the coat, you feel lighter, freer, and you return to the hearth, pulling a heavy, high-backed wooden rocking chair closer to the fire. You sit down, the wood of the chair groaning softly, welcoming your weight, and you stretch your legs out toward the warmth, your boots resting near the hearthstones. The fire is roaring now, a contained inferno that consumes the oak logs with a steady, low rumble, a sound like a distant wind or a rushing river. The heat is building, filling the room, pushing the cold into the corners and then banishing it altogether. You watch the flames dance, their shapes constantly changing, never repeating the same movement twice, a hypnotic display of energy that captures your gaze and holds it. Your eyelids begin to feel heavy, the warmth acting like a gentle weight that pulls you down into relaxation. The light from the fire creates a golden sphere of comfort around you, highlighting the grain of the floorboards, the texture of the stone, the beams of the ceiling above. You feel completely safe here, protected by the thick walls and the heavy door, warmed by the fire you built with your own hands. The draft from the fire pulls fresh air into the room through the tiny cracks in the cabin, keeping the air fresh even as it warms, a cycle of breath for the house itself. You can hear the sap in the wood hissing and simmering as it boils away, escaping as tiny jets of steam, and occasionally a log settles with a soft thud, sending a shower of sparks flying up the chimney like a swarm of fireflies. These sounds are the heartbeat of the cabin, the rhythm of a peaceful night. You rub your hands together, feeling the friction and the heat, and then rest them on the arms of the chair, your fingers uncurling, your palms open to the warmth. The firelight paints your skin in shades of bronze and gold, and you feel a deep sense of gratitude for this shelter. In this moment, there is no past to regret and no future to worry about. There is only the fire, the chair, and the room. The warmth seems to seep into your very soul, melting away the stress of the modern world, reminding you that life can be simple, that happiness can be found in a dry room and a good fire. You look around the cabin, seeing the details revealed by the flickering light, a woven rug on the floor, a simple wooden table, a shelf with a few old books, all of them looking friendly and inviting in the soft glow. The harsh edges of reality are softened here, blurred by the heat waves rising from the hearth. You feel a drowsiness stealing over you, a pleasant, heavy sensation that starts in your feet and works its way up, relaxing your legs, your torso, your arms, your neck. The fire is a companion, a storyteller that speaks without words, telling tales of the sun that grew the trees, of the earth that nourished them. You are witnessing the release of decades of sunlight, stored in the wood and now given back to you as heat on this dark night. The room is now fully warm, a cozy cocoon that defies the cold of the forest outside. You know that outside the wind might be blowing, the frost might be settling on the grass, but in here it is eternal summer, a microclimate of comfort created by your own agency. You take a deep breath, the air warm and dry in your throat, tasting of oak and comfort. You feel a connection to the pioneers who sat in chairs just like this, staring into fires just like this, finding their rest after a long day of labor. You share this moment with history, a timeless pause in the river of time. The flames begin to settle down slightly, transitioning from the frantic energy of the initial burn to a steady, rhythmic consumption of the fuel, the heart of the fire glowing with a pulsing, intense heat. This is the mature phase of the fire, the most reliable and comforting phase, where the heat is constant and the light is mellow. You let your head rest against the back of the chair, your eyes half closing, watching the play of light through your eyelashes. The warmth of the hearth is not just physical, it is emotional, a feeling of being home, of being exactly where you are meant to be. The fire crackles again, a sharp pop that doesn't startle you, but rather reassures you that the fire is still working, still protecting you. You feel a profound sense of peace settling over you, a heavy, warm blanket of tranquility that matches the physical warmth of the room. The cabin is no longer just a structure, it has become a living entity, with the fire as its heart and you as its soul. You are safe, you are warm, and the night is yours to enjoy in this sanctuary of light and heat. The world outside has faded away, leaving only the circle of firelight and the deep, abiding comfort of the hearth.
Now that the fire has settled into a steady, glowing bed of embers and the warmth of the cabin has seeped deep into your bones, your senses begin to shift from the immediate comfort of the heat to the wider, gentler world that lies just beyond the thick timber walls. You lean your head back against the wood of the rocking chair, closing your eyes halfway, and you allow your hearing to expand, reaching out through the sturdy oak door and the glass of the window panes to tune into the great nocturnal broadcast of the wilderness. It is a mistake to think of the forest at night as silent, for it is only silent of human noise, of the clatter of wheels and the shouting of voices. But in its absence, a new kind of music emerges, a symphony of night sounds that has been playing in these woods for thousands of years. The first sound that greets you, forming the rhythmic foundation of the entire evening, is the song of the crickets, a choir of millions hidden in the tall grasses of the clearing and the underbrush of the forest floor. Their chirping is steady and hypnotic, a ceaseless rhythmic pulsing that sounds like the very heartbeat of the earth itself, a sound so constant that it quickly becomes a soothing texture in the air rather than a noise. It is a warm, dry sound, produced by the friction of wings, a friction that speaks of life and energy continuing even in the dark. And as you listen to it, you can almost visualize the sea of grass outside, swaying gently in time with this insect orchestra. Above this steady bass line of the crickets, you begin to pick out the soloists of the night, the distinct and hauntingly beautiful calls that echo through the trees. From somewhere deep in the ancient pines, perhaps a mile away, or perhaps just outside the clearing, comes the low, mournful call of a great horned owl. It is a soft, hollow sound, hoo-hoo, a deep resonance that travels effortlessly through the cool night air, sliding between the trunks of the trees without disturbing a single leaf. There is no fear in this sound, only a profound sense of wisdom and watchfulness, for the owl is the sentinel of the forest, the keeper of the night's secrets. You imagine the great bird perched high on a branch, its feathers fluffed against the cold, its large amber eyes blinking slowly as it surveys its domain, and the sound of its voice makes you feel protected, as if a guardian is awake so that you do not have to be. The call repeats, regular and calming,
a reminder that the natural order is intact, that the cycle of predator and prey, of waking and sleeping, is moving exactly as it should. Following the owl's call, you hear the fainter sweet whistle of a whippoorwill, a bird that is the very spirit of the American wilderness, its three-note song repeating over and over with a tireless, energetic joy. It is a nostalgic sound, one that might have lulled pioneers to sleep in their covered wagons or soldiers to rest by their campfires, a sound that connects you to the history of this land. The whippoorwill's song weaves in and out of the cricket's rhythm, creating a complex organic melody that no composer could ever replicate. As you listen deeper, the cabin walls seem to become thinner, allowing the subtle breathing of the forest to reach you. You hear the wind, which has now softened to a gentle breeze, moving through the upper canopy of the forest. It creates a sound like rushing water, a shh that rises and falls with the gusts, swaying the tops of the hemlocks and the firs. It is the sound of the trees talking to one another, their needles brushing together in a whisper that is millions of years old. This wind song is perhaps the most effective lullaby of all, a white noise that smooths out the edges of your thoughts, washing away any lingering stress like a river washing over a stone. Occasionally, you hear the snap of a twig somewhere in the distance, a sharp, crisp sound that punctuates the softness. It is not a startling sound, but rather a sign of life, perhaps a deer stepping carefully through the brush, its hooves finding purchase on the forest floor, or a fox moving silently on padded paws. These sounds remind you that you are surrounded by life, that the forest is a busy, thriving community that does not stop just because the sun has gone down. The darkness is not empty. It is full of harmless, busy creatures going about their nightly routines, and there is a comfort in knowing that you are just one small part of this vast living system. If you listen very closely, straining your ears against the silence, you might hear the distant, high-pitched peeping of tree frogs from the direction of the stream. Their voices are like tiny bells, a shimmering chorus that rises from the damp earth near the water, adding a treble note to the night's composition. It is a wet, fresh sound, smelling of moss and clean water, a sound that cools the mind just by listening to it. The symphony is not chaotic. It is perfectly orchestrated by nature, each sound finding its own space, its own frequency, blending together into a heavy, velvety blanket of noise that wraps around the cabin. Inside your warm sanctuary, the only sound is the occasional pop of the firewood and the settling of the logs, a domestic counterpoint to the wild music outside. The contrast makes the cabin even cozier, the walls even thicker. You find yourself anticipating the next hoot of the owl, waiting for it with a relaxed pleasure, and when it comes, it is like a soft touch to the forehead, signaling that it is time to rest. The rhythm of the cricket seems to slow down as the night deepens, and the temperature drops, their chirping becoming more languid, more spaced out, matching the slowing of your own heart rate. You are syncing with the forest, your breath falling into step with the wind, your pulse matching the beat of the insect choir. There is a sense of timelessness in these sounds, for this is exactly what the forest sounded like 100 years ago, and 1,000 years before that. By listening, you are participating in an ancient ritual, bearing witness to the unchangeable nature of the wild. The sounds are not demanding. They do not ask for your attention or your reaction. They simply exist, washing over you, cleansing you. You feel the heavy, drowsy sensation of sleep tugging at your mind, encouraged by the repetitive, monotonous beauty of the night sounds. A coyote howls in the extreme distance, a long rising and falling note that sounds lonely but beautiful, a song of the open range and the deep woods. It is so far away that it feels like a dream, a faint echo from another world. The sounds of the night are a reminder that the world is large and beautiful, and that your place in it is safe and secure. The symphony creates a sonic landscape that you can explore without moving a muscle, traveling on the wings of the owl and the breath of the wind. It is a landscape of peace, where the only conflict is the gentle struggle for survival, a struggle that feels distant and abstract from the comfort of your chair. The fire in the hearth gives a soft hiss as a pocket of sap evaporates, and the sound blends perfectly with the rustling of the leaves outside. Everything is connected, the inside and the outside, the fire and the wind, the warmth and the cool night air. You let the sounds wash over you, layer after layer, until they form a heavy, velvety blanket of noise that wraps around the cabin. Inside your warm sanctuary, the only sound is the occasional pop of the firewood and the settling of the logs, a domestic counterpoint to the wild music outside. The contrast makes the cabin even cozier, the walls even thicker. You find yourself anticipating the next hoot of the owl, waiting for it with a relaxed pleasure, and when it comes, it is like a soft touch to the forehead, signaling that it is time to rest. The rhythm of the crickets seems to slow down as the night deepens and the temperature drops, their chirping becoming more languid, more spaced out, matching the slowing of your own heart rate. You are syncing with the forest, your breath falling into step with the wind, your pulse matching the beat of the insect choir. There is a sense of timelessness in these sounds, for this is exactly what the forest sounded like 100 years ago and 1,000 years before that. By listening, you are participating in an ancient ritual, bearing witness to the unchangeable nature of the wild. The sounds are not demanding. They do not ask for your attention or your reaction. They simply exist, washing over you, cleansing you. You feel the heavy, drowsy sensation of sleep tugging at your mind, encouraged by the repetitive, monotonous beauty of the night sounds. A coyote howls in the extreme distance, a long rising and falling note that sounds lonely but beautiful, a song of the open range and the deep woods. It is so far away that it feels like a dream, a faint echo from another world. The sounds of the night are a reminder that the world is large and beautiful, and that your place in it is safe and secure. The symphony creates a sonic landscape that you can explore without moving a muscle, traveling on the wings of the owl and the breath of the wind. It is a landscape of peace, where the only conflict is the gentle struggle for survival, a struggle that feels distant and abstract from the comfort of your chair. The fire in the hearth gives a soft hiss as a pocket of sap evaporates, and the sound blends perfectly with the rustling of the leaves outside. Everything is connected, the inside and the outside, the
fire and the wind, the warmth and the cool night air. You let the sounds wash over you, layer upon layer, until they form a dense, protective barrier against the silence. It is a quiet noise, a paradox of the forest, where the sounds actually deepen the feeling of silence rather than breaking it. The symphony of the night is drawing to a close for you, not because the animals are stopping, but because your conscious mind is beginning to let go, drifting away on the tide of the cricket's song. The owl calls one last time, a farewell to the waking world, and the wind sighs in the chimney, a final benediction. You are safe in the cabin, surrounded by the singers of the forest, lulled by the oldest music on earth. The night sounds are your companions, your guardians, your lullaby. They will continue to play all night long, a vigil of sound, to ensure your rest is deep and undisturbed. You surrender to the symphony, letting the chirps and the hoots and the rustles carry you gently, softly, inevitably, toward the shores of sleep.
The warmth of the fire has now softened into a gentle, pulsating glow, the bright orange flames settling down into a bed of deep red coals that hum with a quiet, steady heat. And as the interior light of the cabin dims, the world outside begins to reveal a new and breathtaking kind of illumination. You find yourself drawn slowly from the comfort of the rocking chair toward the small, square window on the eastern wall of the cabin, moving with the heavy, relaxed limbs of someone who is fully at peace. You stand before the glass, which is old and slightly wavy, distorted by the hand-blown techniques of a century ago, and through this historic lens, you witness the silent majesty of the moon rising high above the wilderness. The night sky, which was once a canopy of velvet black, has now been transformed by the arrival of the full moon, a brilliant, luminous orb that hangs suspended among the stars like a lantern of pure white silver. It is the same moon that has guided travelers and dreamers for millennia, and tonight it is shining with a clarity that seems almost supernatural, washing the forest in a bath of cool, ethereal light. The light does not fall evenly, for it must first navigate the complex, layered ceiling of the forest canopy, and this interaction between the moonlight and the trees creates a spectacle of shadow and brilliance that is mesmerizing to behold. High above, the tallest tips of the ancient pines act as the first filter, catching the moonlight in their needles and turning the dark green fronds into shimmering filaments of mercury. The light cascades down from the treetops, slipping through the gaps between the branches, sliding past the rough bark of the trunks and falling toward the earth in focused, tangible beams that look like pillars of mist. As you look out into the clearing and the forest beyond, you see the ground is no longer a solid mass of darkness, but a delicate, moving mosaic of light and shade. The shadows of the leaves and branches are cast upon the forest floor with razor-sharp definition, creating intricate patterns that look like black lace thrown over a silver sheet. Because the night air is moving the trees gently, these shadows are not static. They are alive, swaying and shifting in a slow, hypnotic rhythm that mimics the rolling of the sea. You watch a patch of moonlight drift across a fern, illuminating its fronds one by one, turning them into sculptures of pale jade before passing on to light up the mossy side of a rock. It is a silent dance, a waltz between the celestial light and the terrestrial earth, performed without music but with perfect timing. The moonlight has a way of altering the colors of the world, stripping away the vibrant greens and browns of the day and replacing them with a monochrome palette of blues, grays, and silvers. The world looks like a photograph from the distant past, developed in sepia and silver, timeless and still. You press your hand against the cool glass of the window, feeling the temperature difference between the warm cabin and the chill night, and you feel a sense of awe at the beauty of the scene. The light filtering through the canopy is not harsh, it is soft and diffused, scattered by the millions of needles and leaves until it becomes a gentle glow that reveals the texture of the wilderness without exposing its secrets. You can see the rough grain of the tree trunks, the undulating shape of the ground, the sparkle of dew on the tall grass, all highlighted by this ghostly illumination. It is a light that invites contemplation, a light that calms the nervous system and signals the brain that it is time to rest. Inside the cabin, the moonlight begins to make its presence felt as well, invading your sanctuary in the most peaceful way possible. A single, solid beam of moonlight finds its way through the window pane, cutting through the dusty air of the room like a solid bar of silver bullion. It lands on the wooden floorboards at your feet, creating a perfect, glowing rectangle of blue-white light that stands in stark contrast to the warm orange glow of the dying fire. You watch this pool of moonlight, fascinated by its stillness, and you realize that if you watched it long enough, you would see it move, creeping imperceptibly across the floor as the earth rotates on its axis. It is a clock made of light, marking the passage of the night in inches. The light catches the dust motes dancing in the air, turning them into tiny floating stars that drift in and out of the beam, disappearing into the shadows and reappearing in the light. The atmosphere in the cabin changes, becoming more mystical, more dreamlike as the moonlight mixes with the firelight. The shadows in the corners of the room seem to deepen, while the objects touched by the moon, the edge of the table, the spine of a book, the handle of the water pitcher, take on a crisp, cool definition. You turn away from the window for a moment to look at the room, seeing how the two lights blend, the fire representing the warmth of the body, the moon representing the peace of the spirit. You feel a profound connection to the natural world, a realization that even inside your shelter, you are not separate from the universe.
The moonlight filtering through the trees is a reminder of the vastness of the cosmos, of the giant celestial bodies that dance in the dark while we sleep. It is a comforting thought to know that the moon is watching over the cabin, a silent sentinel that chases away the total darkness. You turn back to the window, unable to tear your eyes away from the forest floor. The patterns of light are constantly evolving, a kaleidoscope of nature that never repeats itself. You see a beam of light illuminate a patch of white mushrooms that have sprung up near the base of an oak tree, making them glow like tiny magical lanterns in the gloom. You see the reflection of the moon caught in a small puddle of water, a perfect shivering twin of the orb in the sky. The beauty is overwhelming in its simplicity, a quiet, understated beauty that demands nothing from you but your presence. The light seems to have a weight to it, a heaviness that presses down on your eyelids, making them droop. It is a sedative light, cool and calming, washing away the frantic energy of the day. You imagine yourself walking out into that light, bathing in the moonbeams, letting the silver glow soak into your skin, cooling your blood, slowing your heart. But you do not need to go outside to feel it. The visual connection is enough. The forest at night, lit by this filtered moon, looks like a fairyland, a place of myths and legends, where time stands still and only the present moment exists. The huge trunks of the pines cast long, parallel shadows that stretch away from the moon, looking like the darkly drawn lines of a musical staff waiting for notes to be written. The silence of the light is profound. Unlike the wind or the crickets, the light makes no sound, yet it speaks volumes to your soul. It speaks of tranquility, of the deep restorative power of the night. You feel a shiver of delight, not from cold, but from the sheer exquisite beauty of the world. You are witnessing a private show, a performance put on by the universe for an audience of one. The clouds drift across the face of the moon, causing the light in the forest to dim momentarily, the shadows softening and blurring. And then, as the cloud passes, the light returns in full force, sharpening the world again. This breathing of the light is hypnotic, a visual lullaby. You feel your breathing synchronize with the brightening and dimming of the forest floor. The cabin feels like a ship sailing through a sea of moonlight, secure and steady. You lean your forehead against the window frame, the wood cool and solid, and you let your eyes lose focus, blurring the trees and the light into a soft, abstract painting of blue and black. You are drifting, your mind untethering from the anchor of logic and floating into the realm of sensation. The moonlight filtering through the canopy is the final signal that the day is truly over. The sun is long gone, the twilight has faded, and now only the night reigns supreme, governed by the white queen in the sky. It is a gentle reign, a rule of peace and quiet. You feel a deep, heavy relaxation spreading through your muscles, a desire to lie down and let the moonlight watch over you while you sleep. You take one last long look at the dappled forest floor, memorizing the pattern of the light, storing the image in your mind to use as a sanctuary when you close your eyes. The silver beams, the black shadows, the glowing leaves, the shimmering needles, it is a masterpiece of the night. You step back from the window slowly, letting the curtain of darkness fall back over the glass, but carrying the afterimage of that beautiful filtered light with you. You turn back toward the center of the room, moving through the beam of moonlight that lies on the floor, feeling as if you are walking through a waterfall of pure energy. The cabin is waiting for you, the bed is waiting for you, and the moonlight will continue to pour through the trees and the window all night long, a silent guardian, a silver blessing, ensuring that your sleep is as deep and as beautiful as the forest itself. Having drawn yourself away from the window and the mesmerizing dance of the moonlight, you move slowly back toward the warmth of the hearth. But as you settle into the rhythm of the quiet cabin, another sound begins to filter through the heavy timber walls, a sound that has been there all along, woven into the background of the night like a silver thread in a dark tapestry. It is the sound of water, the voice of the stream that never sleeps, flowing ceaselessly through the valley just a short distance from your door. It is a low, constant murmur, a gentle rushing noise that is both energizing and deeply relaxing, a reminder that while the world rests, the lifeblood of the forest continues to move. You find yourself drawn to this sound, for there is nothing in nature quite as soothing as the song of running water. So you decide to open the heavy oak door just a crack, allowing the full melody of the stream to enter the room. The sound washes over you instantly, a complex, layered white noise that feels like a cool cloth placed on a fevered forehead. It is a mountain stream, born from the melting snows of the high peaks miles away, tumbling down over granite and moss, carving its path through the wilderness with endless patience. You can hear the different notes in the water's song, the deep, hollow gurgle as it pours over a submerged log, the bright, tinkling splash as it hits a flat stone, and the steady, hushed roar of the current moving through a narrow channel. It is a sound of purity, of clarity, a sound that washes away the mental clutter of the day just as surely as it washes the stones in its bed. You close your eyes and let your imagination carry you out of the cabin and down the gentle slope to the water's edge. In your mind's eye, you are standing on the mossy bank, the air filled with the fine mist that rises from the churning water, cooling your face and filling your lungs with the cleanest air imaginable, charged with negative ions that instantly lower your blood pressure and slow your heart. The stream is a ribbon of liquid obsidian in the moonlight, black and mysterious where it is deep, and flashing with white foam where it breaks over the rocks. It is a living entity, moving with a purpose that is ancient and unchangeable. You imagine the water moving over the smooth river stones, polishing them over centuries into perfect round shapes, a testament to the power of softness and persistence. The sound is consistent, yet never exactly the same, a fluid, shifting composition that acts as a perfect focal point for meditation. It drowns out the silence, filling the void with a presence that is benevolent and calm. You think of the journey of this water, how it has traveled from the clouds to the mountain peaks, down through the forests and the valleys, eventually making its way to the great rivers and finally to the sea, only to rise again and return. It is a cycle of eternal return, a circle unbroken, and listening to it connects you to the infinite loop of nature. The stream does not worry about where it is going. It simply flows, trusting the gravity, trusting the path, and this lesson of surrender seeps into your subconscious. You feel the tension in your shoulders melting away, carried downstream by the current. The sound of the water is a lullaby that predates human language, a sound that our ancestors listened to as they huddled in caves or slept under the stars. It triggers a deep, primal memory of safety, for water means life, and to be near it is to be secure. The rushing sound acts as a sonic barrier, blocking out any sudden noises from the forest, creating a cocoon of sound that wraps you in privacy. You can hear the faint echo of the water reflecting off the trees on the opposite bank, creating a stereo effect that surrounds you. It is a heavy sound, weighty and substantial, like a heavy blanket that pins you gently to the earth. The rhythm is not a beat, but a flow, a continuous legato that smooths the jagged edges of your thoughts. You imagine the trout sleeping in the deep, quiet pools behind the rocks, suspended in the cool darkness, safe and still. You imagine the raccoons washing their paws at the water's edge, the deer bending their necks to drink the cold, sweet liquid. The stream supports them all, asks for nothing, and gives everything. Inside the cabin, the sound fills the room, mixing with the crackle of the fire to create the ultimate atmosphere of comfort. Fire and water, the two elemental forces of comfort, working together to lull you to sleep. The fire warms your body, while the water cools your mind. You lean against the doorframe, listening, letting the sound vibrate through the wood and into your body. It is a mesmerizing drone, a chant of nature that says, sleep, sleep, sleep. The persistence of the stream is comforting. It will be there when you wake up. It will be there 10 years from now. It will be there 1,000 years from now. In a world of constant change, the stream is a constant friend. The noise is loud enough to occupy your mind, preventing you from overthinking, but quiet enough to be background, allowing you to drift. It is the perfect volume for sleep. You visualize the water moving over a small waterfall, a sheet of glass shattering into white noise at the bottom, releasing energy into the night. You visualize the eddies and the swirls, the places where the water turns back on itself, slowing down, resting for a moment before rejoining the flow. You feel your own thoughts slowing down, caught in a mental eddy, swirling gently, going nowhere, just being. The urgency of life fades in the presence of the stream. There is no rush here, only the steady pull of gravity. The water creates a sense of coolness in the air, a freshness that smells of wet stone and algae and damp earth. It is a smell that clears the sinuses and deepens the breath. You take a long, slow breath, inhaling the imaginary mist, feeling it coat your throat with coolness. The stream that never sleeps is doing the work for you, staying awake so you don't have to. It is the vigil keeper, the night watchman, chanting its song to the darkness. You feel a heavy drowsiness pulling at your eyelids, a desire to sink into the mattress and let the sound of the river carry you away into dreams. The boundary between you and the water begins to blur. You feel as if your blood is flowing in time with the current, a slow, steady pulse of life. You are made of water, and the stream calls to the water within you, creating a resonance of peace. The sound is thick, rich, and full of texture. It is not just one sound, but 1,000 small splashes and gurgles combining into one great voice. You can hear the low notes of the deep channel and the high notes of the shallows. It is a choir without a conductor, singing a song of peace. You gently push the heavy door until it clicks shut again, but the sound does not disappear. It is muffled now, softened by the thick wood, turning into a distant, comforting hum that vibrates in the floorboards. This muffled sound is even more sleep-inducing, a background texture that implies safety and enclosure. You are inside, warm and dry, while the water flows outside, cold and wet. The contrast heightens your appreciation for the shelter. You move back to your chair, the sound of the stream following you like a faithful dog. It settles in the corners of the room. It hides under the bed. It wraps around the fire. It is everywhere. You are floating on a raft of sound, drifting down a river of sleep. The stream that never sleeps has washed away your resistance, smoothed your worries, and prepared you for the deep drift. You are ready to let go, ready to flow, ready to become one with the current of the night. The sound is a promise of continuity, a promise of peace. You listen one last time with focused attention, picking out the splash of water on stone, and then you let the focus go, letting the sound become a blur, a soft gray noise that fills your head with cotton. It is the sound of the earth breathing, the sound of time passing, the sound of pure, unadulterated rest. You are safe by the stream, safe in the cabin, safe in the night. The water flows on, and you drift down, down, down into the dark, cool, quiet depths of sleep. The melody of the stream continues to play its ceaseless lullaby in the distance, a sound that has now become a part of the very air you breathe. But your attention begins to shift from the sounds of the earth to the silent majesty of the heavens above. You move slowly toward the window, or perhaps you imagine yourself stepping out onto the sturdy wooden porch once more, wrapping your heavy wool coat tight against the chill, to witness the grandest spectacle the wilderness has to offer. The moon has climbed higher, casting its silver net, but it is the stars that now command your gaze, for in this time and place, far removed from the glow of future cities and the haze of industry, the night sky is a revelation of infinite depth and brilliance. You tilt your head back, your eyes adjusting to the darkness, and you are met with a canvas of crushed velvet that stretches from horizon to horizon, dusted with a quantity of stars that seems impossible to the modern mind. It is a sky so crowded with light that the constellations seem to merge into one another, a shimmering ocean of white and blue and gold that pulses with a slow, ancient rhythm. This is the firmament as it was seen by the pioneers who crossed these plains, by the trappers who navigated these woods, and by the indigenous people who named the seasons by the movement of these celestial bodies. You feel a sudden, profound connection to all of humanity, for you are looking at the exact same map of the night that has guided travelers for thousands of years. High above, the Milky Way arches across the sky like a bridge of spilled milk, a river of diamond dust that glows with a ghostly luminescence, cutting the darkness in half. It is so bright here in the clear mountain air that it casts its own faint shadow, a testament to the purity of the atmosphere. You trace the familiar shapes with your eyes, finding the belt of Orion, the hunter, hanging low in the southern sky, his 3 stars aligned with perfect precision, a warrior resting in the quiet of the night. You see the W shape of Cassiopeia, the queen, sitting on her throne in the north, and the steady, unmoving point of Polaris, the North Star, the anchor of the sky around which all other lights revolve. Watching these stars, you feel the rotation of the earth, a slow, majestic turning that is too subtle to feel but impossible to deny. The vastness of the universe does not make you feel insignificant. Instead, it makes you feel held, a small but essential part of a grand design that operates with perfect order. The light from these stars has traveled for hundreds or thousands of years to reach your eyes tonight, a gift from the deep past arriving in this quiet present. As you gaze upward, you become aware of the interplay between this celestial light and the world below, a game of shadows and starlight that transforms the forest into a place of mystery and beauty. The starlight is softer than the moonlight, a delicate, diffuse glow that does not banish the darkness, but rather embraces it.
The shadows under the great pine trees are deep and absolute, pools of ink-black darkness where the creatures of the night find their rest. These shadows are not frightening. They are thick and velvety, offering a place for the eyes to rest, a necessary contrast to the brilliance of the sky. You watch how the shadows stretch and merge, connecting the trees to one another, creating a unified network of darkness that grounds the forest. The light catches the edges of the branches, outlining them in silver fire, making the trees look like cutouts against the starry backdrop. On the ground, the starlight reflects off the frost that is beginning to form on the tips of the grass blades, turning the meadow into a field of glittering jewels. It is a silent sparkle, a visual whisper that speaks of the cold and the clean air. You feel the crispness of the night on your cheeks, a refreshing touch that makes the warmth of your coat and the cabin behind you feel even more luxurious. Inside the cabin, the shadows are different. They're warm and flickering, born from the dying embers of the fire, dancing on the walls in a slow waltz with the starlight that filters through the window. The two lights meet in the room, the ancient, distant light of the stars mixing with the immediate, earthly light of the hearth. You feel suspended between these two worlds, the infinite and the intimate, the cosmic and the domestic. The silence of the stars is a heavy physical thing, a blanket of quiet that descends from space and settles over the forest. It is a silence that demands nothing, a silence that allows your thoughts to unspool and dissolve. You imagine yourself floating up toward the stars, weightless and free, drifting through the cool ether, leaving behind the gravity of the earth and the weight of your cares. The beauty of the night sky is mesmerizing, acting as a natural hypnotic induction. Your blinking slows down, your breathing deepens, and your neck muscles relax as you continue to stare into the abyss of light. You notice the subtle differences in the colors of the stars. Some are ice blue and piercing, others are a warm, steady yellow, and a few are a dull, glowing red, like dying coals in the fireplace of the sky. Each one is a sun, a story, a world, and yet here, in the quiet of the American wilderness, they are simply decorations for your night, lanterns hung to watch over your sleep. The shadows of the trees seem to lean in, protective and tall, guarding the clearing from the wind. You see the silhouette of an owl flying silently across the face of the moonlit sky, a fleeting shadow that disappears as quickly as it came. The movement is smooth and graceful, a part of the natural flow of the night. You realize that the darkness is not an absence of things, but a presence of peace.
The shadows are where the forest sleeps, and soon you will join them. The interplay of light and dark is a balance, a harmony that soothes the soul. You feel a sense of gratitude for the darkness, for without it, you would never see the stars. The night is a gift, a time to reset, to recharge, to be still. You turn your gaze from the zenith of the sky down to the horizon, where the stars seem to touch the tops of the distant mountains, crowning the peaks with light. The world feels huge and empty in the best possible way, a vast open space where you have room to breathe, room to be. The complexity of your daily life feels very far away, diminished by the scale of the galaxy above you. Here, the only things that matter are the warmth of the cabin, the beat of your heart, and the beauty of the sky. You let your eyes lose focus, blurring the stars into a haze of light, a soft, glowing cloud that hovers over the world. The shadows in the corners of your vision grow softer, fuzzy at the edges, creeping in to gently close your eyes. You are filled with a sense of wonder, a childlike appreciation for the magic of the universe. The starlight feels like a blessing, a cool, cleansing rain of photons that washes away the dust of the day. You take one last deep breath of the starlit air, tasting the ozone and the pine, and you decide that it is time to turn away from the window, to retreat fully into the shadows of the cabin. The memory of the sky remains with you, burned into your mind, a map of peace that you can look at whenever you close your eyes. You move back toward the center of the room, your body moving through the patches of shadow and light on the floor, becoming part of the visual poetry of the night. The cabin wraps around you, the fire warms you, and the stars watch over you. You are safe in the shadows, guided by the starlight. The heavy, comforting feeling of sleep is now undeniable, a tide that has risen while you were watching the sky, and now it is pulling you gently toward the bed. The drama of the heavens will continue all night, the stars wheeling overhead in their stately procession, the shadows lengthening and shortening as the moon moves, but you will be asleep, safe and sound, a small, peaceful point of life under the vast protective dome of the night. The shadows and the starlight have done their work, quieting your mind, expanding your spirit, and preparing you for the deep, dreamless slumber that awaits.
The crisp sharpness of the starlit air has begun to soften and change, transforming into something heavier, richer, and infinitely more soothing, as the invisible currents of the night sky shift to bring a gentle blanket of clouds over the forest, tucking the world in for the night. You sense this change, not with your eyes at first, but with your breath, for the atmosphere has become laden with moisture, a cool, refreshing dampness that carries with it the most primitive and comforting perfume known to mankind, the scent of the earth preparing to drink. The wind, which had been whispering through the high pines, now drops to a hush, a stillness that feels pregnant with anticipation, and then, softly, hesitantly, the first few drops of rain begin to fall. It is not a storm, not a tempest that rages against the walls, but a gentle, historical rain, the kind of steady drizzle that has nourished these ancient woods for eons, a soft release of tension from the sky to the ground. You step closer to the window, or perhaps crack the door open just an inch to fully experience this olfactory masterpiece, and the scent hits you instantly, a complex bouquet of nature that instantly clears the mind and grounds the spirit. The primary note is that of cedar, for the cabin itself is built from the great trunks of the western red cedar, and as the wood dampens in the mist, its pores open up, releasing an essential oil that is spicy, resinous, and deeply calming. It is the smell of old chests and protected memories, a fragrance that acts as a natural sedative, slowing your heart rate and deepening your breathing. Mingling with the cedar is the profound, musky scent of the forest floor, the aroma known as petrichor, which rises from the dry earth the moment the rain kisses it. It is the smell of rich, black soil, of decaying oak leaves turning into nourishment, of ferns breathing out oxygen, a smell that is the very definition of life and fertility. You breathe it in deep, filling your lungs with this cool, wet air, feeling it wash away the dust of the interior, replacing it with the vitality of the wild. The rain picks up a rhythm now, a steady, hypnotic drumming on the cedar-shake roof above your head, a sound that is arguably the most cozy sound in the human experience. Tap, 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 thrum, 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 a chaotic yet perfect percussion that wraps the cabin in a layer of white noise, isolating you from everything else in the world. This sound creates a sonic shield, a barrier that says you are safe, you are dry, and you are exempt from any duties or obligations as long as the rain falls. The visual world outside begins to blur as a low-hanging mist rolls in from the valley, sliding between the tree trunks like a soft, gray ghost, softening the hard edges of the wilderness.
The trees, which stood as distinct silhouettes against the stars, now fade into a mysterious watercolor landscape of charcoal and slate, their tops lost in the low clouds. This narrowing of your world is comforting, bringing your focus inward, making the warm, dry space of the cabin feel even more precious by contrast. The scent of the rain is cool, tasting of ozone and wet stone, a clean flavor on the tongue that makes you feel purified.
You imagine the water beating up on the waxy green needles of the hemlocks, dripping from the tips of the fern fronds, sliding down the rough bark of the oaks to water the mossy roots below. The entire forest is drinking, a collective sigh of relief that you can almost feel in your own body. The dampness in the air makes the warmth of the fire behind you feel more tangible, the heat radiating against your back while the cool mist touches your face, a perfect thermal balance that lulls the senses. The smell of wet wool from your coat, the smell of the kerosene in the lantern, and the smell of the wood smoke from the chimney mix with the fresh rain to create a unique, nostalgic aroma that belongs to a simpler time. It is the scent of the frontier, of survival, of a night spent safely indoors while the elements do their work outside. The rain on the roof sounds like thousands of tiny fingers tapping a lullaby, a sound that bores into the brain and quiets the inner monologue. You feel a heavy lethargy spreading through your limbs, a desire to simply curl up and listen, to let the weather do the thinking for you. The mist outside thickens, pressing against the window pane, turning the glass into a mirror where you can see the reflection of the warm room, superimposing the image of comfort onto the image of the wild. The world is being washed clean, every leaf, every stone, every blade of grass being rinsed of the day's dust, and you feel as if your mind is being rinsed as well, washed clear of worries and plans. There is a specific scent that comes from the creek when it rains, a sharp, mineral smell of agitated water and wet limestone that drifts up to the cabin, adding another layer to the sensory experience. You feel a deep connection to the cycle of water, the rain falling, the stream flowing, the mist rising, a circle that holds you gently in its center. The air is rich with negative ions, charged particles that lighten the mood and induce a state of drowsy well-being. You find yourself taking deeper, slower breaths, trying to capture as much of this healing air as possible before you sleep. The cedar wood of the cabin walls seems to glow with a warmer hue in the dim light, the dampness enhancing the grain, making the structure feel more organic, more like a living thing that is sheltering you. You are inside the tree, protected by its strength, smelling its essence. The rain steadies into a consistent soaking downpour, a sound that drowns out the owl and the crickets, becoming the sole voice of the night. It is a drone, a hum, a wash of sound that smooths out the silence. You can imagine the pioneers of the past lying in their bunks, listening to this same rain, feeling this same relief that the crops are being watered, that the dust is being settled, that the world is being taken care of. You share this moment with history, a timeless interlude of wet earth and dry shelter. The scent of pine resin becomes stronger as the bark gets wet, a sharp balsamic fragrance that clears the sinuses and opens the chest. It is the smell of health, of the pristine American wilderness. You let your head rest against the frame of the window or the door, your eyes half closed, watching the rain streak the glass, distorting the firelight into running rivers of gold. The mist swirls and eddies in the clearing, creating shapes that form and dissolve in seconds, a slow-motion dance of vapor. It is a visual representation of sleep, soft, shapeless, and enveloping. The combination of the cedar, the rain, the smoke, and the earth is a perfume that no perfumer could ever recreate. A raw, honest scent that speaks to the animal part of your brain, telling you that it is time to hibernate, time to rest. The coolness of the damp air contrasts with the dry heat of the room, creating a cozy pocket of comfort that is irresistible. You feel your eyelids growing heavy, weighted down by the soothing rhythm of the falling water. The rain is a curtain being drawn around the cabin, separating you from the rest of the universe, creating a private island of peace.
The sounds of the forest have been replaced by the sound of the weather, a simpler, more monotonous sound that demands nothing. You feel a sense of profound gratitude for the roof over your head, for the dry floor beneath your feet, for the simple luxury of being warm when the world is wet. The scent of the rain lingers in your nose, a fresh, clean memory that you will carry with you into your dreams. The earth is breathing in the moisture, swelling with life, and you are breathing in the peace, swelling with relaxation. The mist wraps the cabin in a soft white embrace, hiding it from view, making you invisible to the world. You are hidden, you are safe, you are alone in the best possible way. The scent of cedar and rain is the final sensory key that unlocks the door to deep sleep. It is the smell of the night settling in, the smell of the forest resting. You are ready to leave the window, ready to leave the door, ready to turn inward and surrender to the heaviness that is pulling you down. The rain will continue to fall, the mist will continue to swirl, the cedar will continue to release its scent, watching over you, comforting you, holding you in the fragrant, rainy embrace of the forest at night.
The rain continues its gentle, rhythmic drumming on the roof, sealing the cabin in a cocoon of natural sound. But inside the sanctuary of these timber walls, another subtle transition is taking place, marking the final turning point of the evening. You turn away from the window and the weeping mist, moving back toward the center of the room, and you notice immediately that the character of the light has changed, for the roaring, energetic fire that welcomed you earlier has now mellowed into a deep, resonant bed of fading embers. The tall, dancing yellow flames have finished their performance, bowing down to become a low, pulsing landscape of intense heat and color, a mesmerizing terrain of molten gold, deep ruby red, and a soft, powdery gray ash that is slowly beginning to coat the wood like a warm winter blanket. This is the twilight of the fire, the most peaceful and contemplative stage of the burn, where the heat is no longer aggressive but radiant, a steady, penetrating warmth that feels like a physical weight pressing against your skin, encouraging your muscles to let go of the very last remnants of tension. You walk slowly toward the hearth, your boots making no sound on the rug, and you stand there for a moment, simply watching the slow breathing of the coals. Every now and then, a small blue flame dances briefly over the surface of a log, a ghostly spirit of the wood saying goodnight before vanishing back into the glow. The light in the room is dim now, a soft amber twilight that blurs the corners of the cabin, making the space feel smaller, more intimate, as if the walls have moved closer to wrap you in a tighter embrace. The shadows are no longer jumping and flickering. They are long and still, stretching out across the floorboards to touch your feet, heavy and restful. You pick up the iron poker from its stand, the metal cool and heavy in your hand, and with slow, deliberate movements, you gently push the remaining logs together, banking the fire for the night. The wood crumbles softly under the iron, sending a tiny shower of orange sparks drifting lazily up the chimney like fireflies ascending to the sky. You cover the brightest coals with a layer of ash, preserving their heat, ensuring that they will sleep through the night just as you will, ready to be woken with a breath of air in the morning. This ritual of tending the fire is ancient, a sacred duty of the night that connects you to every person who has ever lived in the wild, a final act of care before rest. The sound of the coals settling is a soft, shifting rustle, a whisper of the earth returning to the earth. You replace the poker and turn your attention to the lantern that still burns on the table, its artificial light now seeming too harsh, too bright for this somber, sleepy atmosphere. You reach out and turn the small brass dial, lowering the wick, watching the flame shrink until it is just a tiny blue speck, and then, with a soft puff of breath, you extinguish it completely. For a split second, the room feels pitch black, but then your eyes adjust and the cabin is illuminated solely by the deep, rich glow of the fireplace. This light is primal. It is the light of safety, the light of home. It paints the room in shades of copper and bronze, casting a warm sheen on the wooden beams of the ceiling. The smell of the extinguished lantern wick hangs in the air for a moment, a sharp, nostalgic scent of kerosene that mixes with the wood smoke and the rain, a fragrance that signals the end of the day. You are now moving through the cabin by the light of the embers alone, and your movements are slow and heavy, your body fully surrendering to the fatigue that has been waiting for this moment. You unbutton your flannel shirt, the fabric feeling soft and worn against your skin, and you change into your sleeping clothes, moving with the unhurried pace of someone who has nowhere else to be. The air in the room is cooling slightly as the fire dies down, a refreshing drop in temperature that makes the prospect of the warm bed even more inviting. You walk over to the bed, which stands in the corner of the room, a sturdy wooden frame piled high with comfort. It is made up with crisp cotton sheets that smell of lavender and fresh air, and topped with a heavy patchwork quilt, a masterpiece of hand-stitched fabric that carries the weight of history. You pull back the covers, revealing the inviting coolness of the sheets, and you sit on the edge of the mattress for a moment, the bed creaking softly under your weight, a welcoming sound. You lift your legs and slide them under the heavy quilt, pulling it up to your chin, and a sigh of pure, unadulterated relief escapes your lips. The weight of the blankets is immediate and grounding, a heavy pressure that feels like a hug, anchoring you to the mattress. You wriggle slightly, settling your body into the feather ticking, finding that perfect hollow where your spine can completely align and relax. The pillow is cool against your cheek, a soft cloud that cradles your head, and you feel the muscles of your neck lengthening, releasing the burden of holding your head up all day. You lie on your side, facing the hearth, your eyes fixed on the fading embers across the room. From this horizontal perspective, the fire looks like a small, distant city of lights, a glowing harbor in the dark. The heat from the fireplace still reaches you, a gentle wave of warmth that crosses the room to kiss your face, countering the cool air that creeps in from the window. You watch the colors of the coals shift and deepen, the bright oranges fading to a dull, throbbing red, like the heartbeat of the cabin slowing down.
There is a hypnotic quality to this dying light, a steady, rhythmic pulsing that grabs your attention and holds it, preventing your mind from wandering back to the worries of the day. You are transfixed by the glow, your blinking becoming slower and heavier with each minute that passes. The room is quiet, save for the rain outside and the occasional soft tick of the cooling stove, sounds that mark the passage of time in the most peaceful way. You feel a sense of profound closure, the feeling of a day well spent and a rest well earned. The fire has done its work. It has cooked your food. It has warmed your hands. It has lit your room, and now it too is resting. The connection between you and the fire is broken, not severed, but paused, both of you fading into the darkness together. The shadows in the room grow taller and merge, swallowing the furniture, the walls, the door, until there is nothing left in your world but the warmth of the bed and the red eye of the fire. You feel your breathing deepen, your chest rising and falling in a slow, heavy rhythm that matches the slow fading of the light. The thoughts in your head are becoming fragmented, dreamlike, dissolving like smoke in the wind. You try to keep your eyes open to watch the last flicker of a flame, but your eyelids feel like lead, too heavy to lift. The ember's glow leaves an afterimage on your retina, a warm red spot that lingers even when you close your eyes. You feel safe, protected by the heavy timbers, the stone hearth, and the dying fire. The darkness is not empty, it is filled with the presence of history, the comfort of the past. You pull the quilt tighter around your shoulders, creating a seal against the cold, trapping your own body heat to create a microclimate of perfect warmth. The smell of the cedar walls, the rain, and the wood smoke is the incense of sleep, a holy trinity of scents that lulls you deeper. The fading embers are a promise that the morning will come, that the fire can be reborn from the ashes, but for now, the time for burning is over. Now is the time for cooling, for dimming, for ceasing. You let go of the need to see, let go of the need to watch. The fire will watch over itself. You feel yourself sinking deeper into the mattress, as if the bed is absorbing you, holding you up with a strength that allows you to be completely weak. The transition is complete. The day has officially ended. The light has gone. The embers are merely a memory of the heat now, a soft red dream in the corner of the room. You are alone with the dark, but it is a velvet dark, a soft, warm, heavy dark that feels like a blessing. You are ready to let go of the last thread of consciousness, ready to slide down into the deep valley of sleep, guided by the fading red light that is slowly, gently, finally winking out, leaving you in the perfect, peaceful embrace of the historical night. The final ember in the hearth has dimmed to a faint and sleeping memory of heat, leaving the cabin wrapped in a complete and benevolent darkness that feels soft and substantial against your closed eyelids. You have reached the ultimate destination of your journey, the quiet shore at the edge of the great ocean of sleep. And you are no longer an observer of the night, but a part of it, fully integrated into the deep and timeless silence of the forest. The heavy quilt that covers you feels like a protective hand, a gentle weight that presses you down into the softness of the mattress, signaling to every muscle and every nerve that the time for holding on is over and the time for letting go has fully arrived. You feel a delicious heaviness spreading through your body, starting at the tips of your toes and moving slowly like warm honey up through your legs, settling in your hips, relaxing your stomach, and loosening the deep muscles of your back. Your arms lie limp and heavy by your sides, your fingers uncurled and still, resting on the cool cotton of the sheets, and your shoulders have dropped away from your ears, releasing the burden of the day into the pillow. There is no tension left in you, only a profound sense of ease, a feeling of melting into the bed, as if the boundary between your body and the mattress is dissolving. The room is silent, but it is not an empty silence. It is a rich, velvety silence that cushions your mind. The sound of the rain outside has faded into the background of your consciousness, becoming a distant, rhythmic hum that you no longer need to listen to, a white noise that wraps the world in cotton. You are drifting away from the sensory world, pulling your awareness inward, down into the safe, warm center of your own being. The thoughts that had been floating through your mind are now slowing down, becoming heavy and sluggish, drifting apart like clouds on a windless day, until they simply dissolve into nothingness. You try to hold on to a thought, but it slips away, replaced by the comforting blankness of the dark. You are entering the space between waking and sleeping, a twilight zone of pure relaxation where time has no meaning. There is no past to regret, for it is gone, and there is no future to worry about, for it has not yet arrived. There is only this eternal present moment, this single breath, this deep peace. You focus on the rhythm of your breathing, the slow rise and fall of your chest, the cool air entering your nose and the warm air leaving your lips. It is a slow, steady cycle, an anchor that holds you safe in the harbor of sleep. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. With every breath you sink deeper, falling gently through layers of softness, moving further away from the surface and closer to the core of the night. The silence of the forest seeps through the walls of the cabin and enters your heart, a silence that is millions of years old, a silence that occupied this land long before humans walked upon it. It is a healing silence, a silence that repairs and restores. You feel safe here, hidden away in the vast American wilderness, a tiny speck of warmth in a universe of cool, quiet stars. The darkness behind your eyes is not black, but a deep, soothing indigo, swirling slowly, creating abstract shapes that morph and change as you watch them. You are safe to let go now, safe to surrender control. The cabin is holding you, the forest is holding the cabin, and the night is holding the forest. It is a hierarchy of protection, a nesting doll of safety. You feel your jaw relax, your tongue dropping away from the roof of your mouth, your forehead smoothing out as the last wrinkle of worry is erased. Your eyes are so heavy that you could not open them even if you wanted to, but you do not want to, for the world behind your closed lids is far more inviting. You are drifting on a raft of tranquility, moving slowly down a river of dreams. The stream outside is still flowing, the owl is still watching, the trees are still standing, but they are part of a different world now, a world you have left behind. You are sinking deeper into the mattress, feeling gravity pull you down, down, down into the embrace of the earth. The air in the room is still and peaceful, charged with the quiet energy of sleep. You can feel the history of the place, the peaceful slumber of all those who have slept in this cabin before you, a lineage of rest that you are now joining. It is a historical sleep, a sleep that connects you to the rhythms of nature, to the rising and setting of the sun, to the turning of the seasons. You are becoming one with the winter night, dormant and still. The silence deepens, becoming absolute, a profound quiet that fills your ears and quiets your soul. It is the deepest silence you have ever known, a silence that feels like love. You are floating in a void of comfort, weightless and free. The last tether to the waking world snaps gently, and you are adrift, sailing into the mystery of the night. You feel a wave of gratitude wash over you, a thankful prayer for this bed, for this warmth, for this peace. The darkness wraps around you like a soft blanket, tucking you in, keeping you safe. You are sinking through the floor, through the earth, down into the cool, dark roots of the world. You are drifting into the deepest silence, where there is no sound, no light, no time, only the pure, unadulterated experience of rest. Your heart beats slowly, a calm drum in the quiet. Thump, 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 thump. It is the only sound left in your universe. The transition is almost complete. You are hovering on the threshold of the deep, dreamless sleep that heals the body and the mind. You feel a sensation of falling, but it is a gentle falling, like a leaf drifting down from a tree, swaying back and forth until it lands softly on the moss. You have landed. You are in the sanctuary of sleep. The door to the waking world is closed and locked. You are safe. You are warm. You are deeply, deeply asleep.
The forest at night keeps its vigil. The stars shine on, the earth spins, but you are gone, lost in the beautiful, restorative, historical silence. Good night. Sleep well.